Coming at you live on this Sunnyside Summer Thursday. This is the CHGO White Sox Podcast. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. Welcome into Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber. The man in the middle, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. You can read Vinny's work up at allchgo.com. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. We're being produced today by Joey Spathis. Joey 1.2K? Not yet. It's 1.1K?
1.1. Yeah, we're close.
1.98K?
Sure.
All right,
somewhere around there.
So hit that thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. On today's show, we will be talking about Jerry Reinsdorf's recent statement, and we'll also be answering one diehard question. There was even our guy...
Picked from a list of millions we called the best possible one.
There was one.
You felt the need to felt the need to pull people back to reality after I said there were millions?
Yeah, well, because we're only going to have one from our guy B-Dams. And also, I think it just gives you the state of fandom when our guy Ian, who's extremely chatty from across the pond, loved the White Sox. I think he said, I literally am having a difficult time coming up with a question. Like, this is just the state of the team. This is not 50,000 Elvis fans smiling and watching. This is
50 million.
50 million.
Yeah.
This is 11,000 White Sox fans putting themselves under paper bags.
Which White Sox person gets to wear the gold suit on the album cover?
I mean, it was Elvis Andrus.
He's gone.
Yeah.
He gone,
I mean,
to use language.
Corey Lee's a star.
You don't want to see Grady in the gold suit?
I could see Grady in the gold suit.
Getsy in the gold suit?
I like
Jerry in the gold suit?
No. Nothing with him. Getsy or Grady I kind of like because of the alliteration. I like Getz gold, Grady gold. I don't mind that.
When I think about the jumpsuit, I think a little stomach there. Not a lot, a little stomach. So we need a White Sox player with a little gut there. Maybe I know Chucky Robinson's not the guy, but
Herb's fast forward into 70s Elvis.
Yeah, that's what I think about the Elvis in the jumpsuit. He's like, yeah, he's just like kind of slow. He's like,
he had a greatest hits album in 1959.
Oh,
50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong, and he's wearing a famously shiny
white
full gold suit on the front.
It's pretty slick.
It's awesome.
But I mean, now that you're bringing up 70s White Sox, Ron Kittle or maybe Greg Luzinski.
Those are 80s White Sox, but sure.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good. Ron Kittle didn't touch the 70s at all.
No.
1983 American League Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I was not alive.
I mean, he was alive in the 70s, but he wasn't playing for the White Sox.
Yeah, Ron Kittle was famously alive in the 70s, just not playing baseball.
I also was alive.
You're looking for Bill Melton, Richie Zisk, Carlos May.
Got any more?
Chet Lemon.
Also debuted in 1982, Ron Kittle.
Wilbur Wood. That's a 70s White Sox, right?
Wilbur Wood. Our guy, Ed
Dick
Farmer
Allen
as well.
Yeah, Farmio. Yeah, there's a lot to choose from.
Chet Lemon, too.
Yeah.
Jorge Horta. I'm literally just
Dick Allen.
I'm looking at the 1970-19 team. And not a lot of people know this. We did bring up Macho Man Randy Savage. He had a former professional baseball career. Also, singer of the Doors, Jim Morrison, was on the 1979 White Sox team.
No.
After his death.
67 games for Jim Morrison. Do you know who the last player to wear 42 for the White Sox was?
Ron Kittle.
Okay. All right. Well, you do know. So great answer, Vinny. You're very
You asked the question, I answered.
Yes, you did. He is. Oh, actually, you're wrong. It's Scott Ruffcorn. So I was actually wrong. Dale Svem. Something
former
like
Cub manager.
And I knew the spelling of it. I just didn't know. I knew he was a former manager right before Madden, right?
No.
The guy before
Ricky.
Ricky?
Yeah.
It was Dale, Ricky, Madden?
Correct.
All right, there you go. All right, that's a different team. Welcome into CHGO White Sox Podcast. Vinny, at the end of yesterday's game, you posted Jerry Reinsdorf's statement. the thing that obviously grabbed most people's attention was I expect to have more to say at the end of the season, the end of that statement. You just published a piece up to allchgo.com that people can go read about this statement and about Reinsdorf. What was your main takeaway from that statement?
I mean, the takeaway was what you said there. I mean, the timing of a statement like this is interesting. There's 15 games left, guys. I mean, this team has been in a bad way all year long, and here's the chairman weighing in basically with 3 weeks left to play. So that is kind of odd on the surface, but they did give a reasoning for the statement being made, which was numerous media inquiries. Hey, they're about to break the record. There are a bunch of national reporters at the ballpark the last few days getting ready to write big stories when the record is broken about, hey, here's the team that has the most losses in baseball history. So with those kinds of folks asking specifically for Jerry, they put out that statement, and so that's why the timing is what it was. But I think what you said is my biggest takeaway, not so much the, hey, it's a bummer of a season, everybody's disappointed. Yeah. We know Jerry's not happy that they're losing all these games. The idea, though, that he has more to say at the end of the year, that is intriguing because it's a rarity. Even a statement like this is a rarity from Jerry Reinsdorf, who almost exclusively lets the GM or the head of the baseball department do the talking. Now that's Chris Getz. It was Rick Hahn. It was Kenny Williams before it was Rick Hahn. Those guys are the face of the franchise, so to speak, or the voice of the franchise. Jerry doesn't really talk much, at least not since I've been covering the team, as I keep bringing up to you guys, that media session last summer when he sat down with us beat writers the day that Chris Getz was promoted to be GM. That's the first baseball media session that Jerry Reinsdorf has given since I've been covering this team full time. Usually it's the other instances have been about Hawk Harrelson going into the Hall of Fame or Harold Baines going into the Hall of Fame, that kind of thing, with maybe a stray baseball question thrown his way at the end of those kinds of things. But so even a statement like this is a rarity. And even these words, again, I think it was just 6 or 7 sentences. It was real short. It was typed up, not spoken, but because there really isn't much word from the chairman on the team, it is something. But the idea that within that statement, within those few sentences, there's a forecast that there will be more to come, that's interesting to me. And, certainly when you're making baseball history, good or bad, you would expect the guy who owns the team or the gal who owns the team to be out in front of it, or to be at least made available to talk about it. And here the White Sox are going to make baseball history. He's going to talk about it, probably how disappointed he was. I don't know what form that's going to take, if it's going to be another long sit-down like we had with him last summer, if it's going to be a press conference thing, as he did step up and address the media and cameras before Chris Getz's press conference last summer as well. Or maybe it'll be another written statement, hey, this was tough. Maybe it'll be longer, right? Hey, this was tough, a terrible season. We're looking forward to the plan bringing better days ahead kind of thing. But it is going to be interesting to see what those words are, because at the end of the day, this is the number one decision maker at the top. Even if he gives Chris Getz full authority to make the decisions within the baseball department, he's still above everybody else on the flow chart. So it'll be very interesting to hear from him, and I think that was the most interesting part of what he had to say yesterday.
Even though I think that in that statement that Jerry's going to give at the end of the year, he won't say anything earth-shattering or anything that you as a White Sox fan will actually enjoy, or it's like the things that you've been asking for. He's not going to sell the team. He's not going to fire.
What?
Yeah, he's not going to fire Chris Getz. He's not going to make major changes, salute, to this team, which are necessary. I think he'll just say what was in that statement. Yes, I'm disappointed, but these guys come to the table and come to the ballpark every day, pros out every time. And Chris Getz, while the record's not good, I like what he's doing. He's on the right track to blah, blah, blah. That's what he's going to say. That's my first blush thing I'm thinking about when Jerry Reinsdorf sits down with you guys. And I hope he does sit down with you guys in the Anaheim series, which is the last home series the White Sox do have, instead of having to bring you back after the Detroit road series after the series.
What I would point out is the perfect opportunity to do that would be when they introduce a new manager. So that it might not be until November, but boy, that makes sense as having the media around, being able to have digested a full season, right, and kind of know what direction that your front office is planning on going on for the season. I mean, remember that day that he talked to us last summer, that was the biggest change that organization had made in 2 decades.
Yes.
And so it made sense that on that important day that sort of thing would happen. And so if I were to look forward and pick which day makes the most sense, it might be the day they introduce a new manager.
But don't you think that I would hope that Jerry would know that hiring a new manager, that's his day, his or her. I mean, there's no women eligible yet or that are managing yet. Yeah. So I would say that person's day, and he wouldn't want to step on that with his disappointment of the last year. And that day will be either Chris Getz introducing the new manager and letting that be the only focus that day. Because if that new manager gets hired and Jerry's also doing his state of the state, no one's going to be talking about that new manager. They're like, oh, Jerry said that thing. And all eyes will be focused on Jerry. Like, who the new manager coming in, and I hear what you're saying. That'll be a one-shot thing so you can get it all done. Media's all in one spot already, and so he can just say what he needs to say on that one day. But I would hope he would do just a separate, all by himself, like you guys were all in his office last year, where it's the last game on Thursday versus the Angels, and hey guys, here we go. Let's talk about what I feel, and this is all of it. And also, he can kind of bury it. Like if it's that Thursday afternoon, yeah, it's not a Friday news dump, but it kind of can be buried by Thursday Night Football or other things going on. Or he can do it during the MLB playoffs, which would be much better because people won't be thinking about the White Sox. So I think that it would be much more beneficial for him to do it a standalone, not with the manager being hired. I know that sounds much better, Vinny, and that's probably his modus operandi. I hope he doesn't do that, to give that new manager his day.
I have no problem driving down to the rate, a few days after the season ends. No problem. It's right down Lakeshore Drive.
I mean, I agree with Herb, at least from that thought process. I think logistically yours makes sense. Hey, we're going to have the media here. Let's just all get it done. And the last time that they made a change like this, Jerry obviously spoke before Getz, and then that was Getz's biggest day. But it also, we're hiring a new guy because that guy just left. Pedro was fired in August. And I feel like it would probably frame it in a pretty difficult space. Like, hey, here are my thoughts on the 120-plus loss season. Here's the new manager. I feel like that would also just direct the idea of, oh, you're going to have to fix this 120-loss team rather than this is your new opportunity with a new franchise. My biggest question is, I expect. That does not mean I will. I mean, it feels like you guys think that he will speak at the end of the year, but I mean, I don't.
Well, you don't say that if you're not going to. That's my thought. Yeah. Is that you don't need to put that line in there. And I guess the idea is, like I said, that I expect to have more to say at the end of the year can mean 100 different things. And I go back to again, just to kind of hammer home the rarity of him talking to a whole group. I remember when they won the division in 2021, and he talked to a pool reporter on the phone. We were in Cleveland, obviously, when they clinched the division. Answered a few questions, and that was it. So I mean, that was maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's just like I said, maybe just a long, lengthy written statement, as he has done that kind of thing before too. In when they've hired a new manager or other press releases that require his words to be said. I mean, even if you go back to when Rick and Kenny were fired, he did not speak to us that day. Right. He didn't speak until Chris was promoted. So the only thing we had to go on from his words about Rick and Kenny being fired was what was written in that press release. And so there's a lot of different forms that can take.
And I hope if he does do a public forum where he's speaking, he allows the media to ask him questions. He can, not answer the questions, but a nice back and forth with the media to get questions answered that don't come out of the statement that he does initially make, because just going up to a podium or releasing a statement, I think is weak. I think you need to face the media in a bad year like this. I appreciate them sending out a statement yesterday telling you guys I got more words to say, but also I want him to face the music of the media to get some answers that dearly need to be answered.
I hear that. I am not expecting much from this, I guess. And at the end of the day, like, could he possibly have people just get distracted by other things that are going on, like the MLB playoffs and maybe Shohei Ohtani's 50-50 race. Like right now they are in the spotlight, but after September 29th, will the White Sox truly be a story? Maybe he weathers
Absolutely
this out.
Not. You're talking about nationally, right?
Yeah, right. So I think maybe he could weather this out, and maybe it's not exactly, like he's speaking directly to Jeff Passan or anything. But hopefully he gives you guys 20 minutes. I would like that. I mean, it was obviously nice last time he gave you 20 minutes. I didn't, love everything he said, but at least he said something for 20 minutes. What is it like interviewing him, though? Because, I mean, interviewing Grady or Pedro is probably a little different.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think if you're just talking about, like, my thought process and it, like, everything you have to hit everything's got to be a big picture question. And it's all got to be important. So, I mean, you got to kind of go into it thinking, all right, what are the most important things that people need to know? Whereas with the manager, that is dwindled down to not only a daily basis, but a pregame basis, right? I mean, like we're asking him, why is this guy batting in this spot in the lineup kind of thing? That's not something you're going to ask Jerry. What you're going to ask Jerry is going to be far more important for the wide-ranging future of the franchise as opposed to something I need to know to watch for in the fourth inning today.
I don't know if you needed to be like very specific with your wording to like Rick or something because he was a lawyer, and maybe if he heard like one way he could get out of it, maybe that was So I was just wondering if
you do that with everybody you interview. I think I think every question has to be tailored to the person you're talking to.
Any way you specifically tailor questions to Jerry?
Not really, because I mean I've only really spoken to him in that setting that one time. I mean obviously very briefly here and there, but yeah. So
speak loudly.
Perhaps I'll have learned something from perhaps I'll go back and listen to last year's again and have learned something from it.
We're going to take a break, and then we will jump back into this discussion about what Jerry Reinsdorf should say, when the season ultimately wraps up. But Herb, let us know about Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easy and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, Prize Picks is just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get on the daily actions with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. And now you can win up to 100 times your money with Prize Picks in as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. With one Caleb Williams passing yard, it gets you one win with Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard. Get you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal Prize Picks has right now because it's gone when September ends. And Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, Georgia, and right here in Illinois. My go-to Prize Pick at the moment is the points, rebounds, and assists for Caitlin Clark because she's been on fire and balling since the Olympic break. But I think I put a couple in today for Josh Allen over 0.1 touchdown pass, and also same thing for Tyreek Hill with a 0.5 touchdowns receiving or rushing touchdown. And also I put that Caleb Williams 1 yard. So that you guys can do the same if you want to. I mean, I think the game just started, so today's probably won't be available, but the whole weekend, it's got college football action, all that stuff available.
NBA's coming up for Trae Young and Kobe White.
Damn right. My guy Io, too.
Io, there it is.
Download the app today and use the code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Thank you, Herb. And get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Vinny just put his on. I have mine on. You could see that our shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics. I guess you can't see the optics. Put them on yourself for that. Make them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures, and they have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a style in your favorite team's color. Obviously, black goes well with anything. Thankfully, the White Sox wear black and not like blue. They get pretty gaudy to have a blue sunglasses. Anyways, that's just me. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. That's code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
I have some blue sunglasses.
You do?
I do.
Is it like Cub blue, though?
I mean, it's just blue.
Okay.
Like a metallic-y blue.
Of course, Vinny has blue.
I got blue sunglasses.
Color.
I got some pink sunglasses.
Yeah. The lens themselves.
Yeah, the lenses. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the frame?
Metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking more about the frame being blue. Like like a.
I've got some Shady Rays that are white frames with pink lenses.
There you go.
They look
Those
good.
are slick. Where are those during the off season?
I think he has brought them in. I think he's worn those.
I don't know if he's worn them.
I think I've seen those.
Okay.
They look good.
Yeah.
Anyways, go check out Shady Rays. Use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. All right, Herb, you brought up the idea when we were talking about this topic, how we would advise Jarrett Reinsdorf, what to say, what to do. Is there anything specific that you would include when he does finally address the media, hopefully, at the end of the season? What would you have him or want to have him say?
More than likely, he's going to keep Chris Getz. And that's his guy. And I might disagree with it, and you who are listening and watching will definitely disagree with it, but he's staying. Get him some help. Like, he is, as we used to say when we got taken over back by Odyssey when we're on the score, is that Chris Getz is the cat or the mouse trying to eat the cat. And he's never done this job before. It's a huge undertaking for anybody to do. And he's doing it. He's not doing it by himself, but he is the guy. So get some help. Whether it's the Dayton Moore idea that was bounced around last year, just some kind of advisor is like, yeah, you might want to do this, that, and the other. It's something to take his workload and take it a little bit down. He needs to, help the kid out to do the job a little bit better. I would say I would announce something about a rededication and a commitment to research and development. We've heard years from this organization that they really don't do the research and development that other teams do. A commitment to that could help the White Sox on the margins where Jerry doesn't want to spend money, big time money usually, especially not on starting pitchers. So let's get the advantage or at least get the equal playing field with the rest of the teams by having the same numbers and utilize those same numbers out there in the baseball field. So put some money out there and make sure that this 120 plus loss season doesn't go to waste. And you can also retain the people who are on the team already. That's probably my main focus. The Brian Bannisters of the world, like we've all recognized that Brian Bannister has a value to the White Sox. We've seen it on the field, what he's done with the pitching staff as the director of pitching. You got to make sure that guy doesn't leave. Do whatever you need to do to make Brian Bannister stay here with the White Sox. I'm guaranteeing, I'm sure he has a contract. I'm guaranteeing there's 20 plus other teams saying, yeah, the White Sox suck, but they developed X, Y, and Z. And I like that on my team. So I'm sure Brian Bannister, after a 120 plus loss team, will be looking other places. So you got to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere because that is one of the strengths of your team right now. So make sure that he stays here. And I would also advise him to stop this Nashville stuff. The fans are tired of you using Nashville and other cities as leverage to your new stadium, as Mark is talking about. Stop it. Just have a commitment to Chicago. Hey, I'm here. I'm going to stay here. Yeah, I want your money, but I'm not going to use Nashville or Portland or Vegas or any other city, Montreal, as a city to say I want leverage against you White Sox fans. That has already been done. It's already a losing plan. And I would think my last thing is they always say, stop preaching to the choir. I think Jerry and his people at the White Sox preach to the choir and the congregation, the season ticket holders and the people who watch every day. You need to go and outside the church and look at those people who don't come into White Sox Park anymore. They used to have 25,000 just 3 years ago average. Now they're at 16,000 with 11,000 the last couple days showing up at the ballpark and not even showing up. That's the tickets of people who sold the tickets. That's it. So you need to go to talk to people who actually have White Sox ties, have been White Sox fans, and are now either some other team's fan or just apathetic about the White Sox and they don't watch. How many times do we look on these comments and they're like, I'm just tuning in for you guys, or I haven't watched the game in months and I'm just tuning in for you guys. There's people out there
Thanks for watching, first of all.
Exactly. There's people out there who want to be White Sox fans. And yes, Jerry will hear some harsh words where people are going to say, I want you to sell the team, or you're bad at owner. But you're massaging and making the loyal fans happy about going to the Field Museum and bringing back Sox Fest. That's cool. Keep on doing those things. But to gain more fans, how about those fans you've lost from 2 years ago? Go and talk to them. You have a list of those season ticket holders that you've lost. Talk to them personally and say, I want you back. How can I get you back here? And they'll say, spend money, you need to sell the team, et cetera, et cetera. But at least having an audience with them, I think will show that you care about their opinion, not just the people who are already giving you money. You can still talk to the people who are giving you money, but also you need to talk to the people who might potentially in the future give you money. And so I would say those would be the main points I would have for Jerry Reinsdorf when he does talk to the assembled media, hopefully, or just in a statement. Just make sure that you don't insult the fans. Don't say things that are going to be seen and heard in a different way. I just need him to be hat in hand and say, hey, man, this is a bad year. I take responsibility as the chairman of the White Sox. What do I need to do to get your business back?
The way that folks feel about Jerry Reinsdorf, or at least the way that I gather that a lot of folks feel about Jerry Reinsdorf right now, I'm not sure there's too much he could say that would be well received. I think he could stand up there and say, guess what? I'm announcing that war is over and there's peace on earth, and it's all my doing. And everyone would say, "Sell the team, sell the team." So I think that it's going to be very difficult for him to say that. I think what he is likely to say is what reality is, and that is probably him expressing a commitment to the project that Chris Getz has started, because you can't travel back in time. Chris Getz is the GM. He has been for a year, and he has started a rebuilding project that is focused on the future. Obviously, the vast majority of White Sox fans are watching what's going on at the Major League level, and this is about to be the worst Major League season ever. But this season was never going to be good. You just had the GM sit less than a week ago, 4 days ago, and tell us all that he would not have been surprised or as surprised if they had lost 110 games this year. This Major League season was not set up to succeed. The idea was that it was part of a long-term plan to have success down the road. And so I think what Jerry will likely say is something that will point to that his belief in that future success, whether it's what Chris and the front office are doing or what changes that they are making and have made to those behind-the-scenes departments that are going to be so influential. The international side of things, the amateur scouting side of things. There's not much that, let's say Jerry, has had enough with all this losing. I don't think short of spending $400 million this offseason or more, he's going to be able to field a contending team next year. This White Sox team is not going to be able to field a contender next year. So what can he do? What can an energized and committed owner do to bring along contention as quickly as possible? It's really to just continue to invest where you've already invested in the project that's already a year down the road. Yeah, of course, he could go out and sign free agents, and that would be great for the team. The team would be better, but how many free agents are you going to be able to go sign in the next however many months to turn things around so quickly, right? So I think the idea would be maybe there is spending that can be done on the international side of things to get some more prospects in here, right? Or make sure that Garrett Crochet is either locked up or traded for something that is really, really impactful. And again, that's not really something Jerry can do. That's something Chris can do as the man in charge. So I think commitment to the long-term strategy is probably the only thing he is likely to do in terms of big statements on the baseball side of things. I think we'll probably hear a lot about other things, including the stadium, especially the idea of a stadium. But I don't see the big change that is made this offseason that suddenly erases the distaste of 120 or whatever lost season it's going to be, and everybody goes into next season all hopeful and lining up to buy season tickets. That's just not going to happen. Everybody expects them to be bad again next season. It's just to what lesser degree can they be bad?
I would say peace on earth probably does include Jerry Reinsdorf selling the White Sox, so maybe that is a little bit redundant, but your point heard. Maybe also signing Juan Soto leads to peace on earth, but maybe this is just a very centric White Sox fan thought.
I'm just saying,
I'm not looking outside the world.
Even if he were to say, we're signing Juan Soto, I'm going to give him a blank check. Everybody cheers, and then they lose 105 next year instead of 125, right?
Hey, that's progress.
That's a 20-game improvement from one player.
I would buy a season ticket if Juan Soto's playing 81 at the guaranteed rate.
I agree. Hey, going back to 2023 is a lot better than 2024, so I'll take it. Let's take a break. We'll let you know about our friends over at Empire and FOCO. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed. So competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Empire's their product team exhaustively combs through thousands of products each and every year to find the perfect styles for your home. And you can check out those styles with their virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. And I feel a little bit lonely. Our guy Lynn Haldren is over there in bobblehead form. He's over on the shelf there, and I feel like I'm missing out on our pal Lynn. We also want to let you know about our friends at FOCO. I don't think they have the Lynn Haldren bobblehead that Vinny's about to go get, but they do have a ton of White Sox bobbleheads that you can go check out.
Yeah, our guy Southpaw over there.
Yeah. The TA one as well is over there. Get fitted in the best sports gear around. Yes. Thank you, Vinny. Now I feel less lonely. They have hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. If you're going to a basketball or hockey game, you could show off your love with team-branded friendship bracelets. Whether it's jackets, benchwear, or even overalls, there's something for fans for almost every occasion. Go get your White Sox overalls and wear them to the 129th loss of the season. Set decorations, too, like the TA.
You'll have to go to Detroit in order to do that, but sure.
Oh, right. I mean, what's the last home game? They'll lose like 125 there?
Angels on Thursday, like the 26th.
You'll see a 120th loss in the range. Not 130, but 120 of some sort. And we have some set decorations, too, that FOCO has donated to us. We appreciate them, so go show them some love. Go to FOCO.com, FOCO.com, or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use promo code CHGO10 for 10% off. That's promo code CHGO10 at FOCO.com.
Is our guy Jim calling you Magnum PI, Vinny?
Sounds like it.
I think so.
I mean, Miami or New Orleans, that would be a different setting. Magnum PI, I'd be in Honolulu. But, Jim, who's to say, we don't have a show after today until Sunday. Who's to say I'm not jetting off to Miami or New Orleans on an investigation after the show?
I actually did think that exact same thing when you put on your Shady Rays. And then I looked up Magnum PI, and he doesn't wear sunglasses.
No, he wears a Detroit Tigers hat for some reason.
What's the guy?
Tom
Caruso.
Selleck.
The Caruso guy.
Oh, yeah, from CSI Miami.
He says something witty.
But isn't Magnum PI Tom Selleck?
Yeah, but
I'm totally picturing Magnum PI in sunglasses.
No.
He probably did at some point. He's in Hawaii. It's sunny.
What is that, the Mandela effect? You thought he did, but no, he probably never did.
There's a picture right here of our guy, Tom Selleck, in sunglasses. Looking sick and kind of having a very similar floral shirt to Vinny. His is red, and yours is blue, but still. I mean, I could see the Magnum PI thing. All right. And we appreciate our guy Shirtless Wonder saying let it all out. Vent away, CHGO Sox crew. I'm wearing the store shirt, Kev, so shout out to you. One of the things that wasn't brought up, obviously trying to go out and establish a connection with fans would be nice. I don't think Jerry Reinsdorf's going to take, I really think, I'm surprised that he's going to take 20 minutes to talk to the media. I don't think he's going to jump on phone calls with anybody saying like, hey, we'd really love you to come back to the team. Do you think, though, that one thing that was not brought up by either of you guys, do you think there should be a senior advisor to Chris Getz? We heard that Jerry said he knew all the candidates were out there, but he could skip all of that by hiring the guy that already knew the issues that was inside the building. Do we feel like after about a year of over a year of Chris Getz being on this job, do we feel like he needs some help or some supervision in this journey?
I don't think needs is the right word. I mean, I think that's up to Jerry Reinsdorf and probably to Chris Getz, right, to see if they think that way. Jerry, a year ago, obviously did not think that way. He hired Chris Getz to be the top decision maker in the baseball department, and Chris Getz has spent the last year being that. I think you point to the guys that Chris Getz brought in around him from other organizations to be kind of that brain trust, whether it's Bannister, who you mentioned already, or Josh Barfield, Gene Watson, Jin Wong, any number of those guys. I think that's kind of the group that's running things. If Jerry has had a change of heart after watching Chris on the job for a year, I suppose it's always a possibility, but that doesn't seem very likely to me right now at all. I will say and remind you, there is a senior advisor on this team right now, granted not in the role that you're talking about, but there is somebody with that title in Tony La Russa. But I think that had Jerry been looking for that, that would have been part of the process a year ago. And for that to suddenly become part of the process would not speak well, not just to what has happened in the year since, but what happened in those weeks leading up to that decision in the first place. Because remember, the idea that there was no one else interviewed outside of that building for the job Chris eventually got means that there was no consideration given to having somebody in this position, the old Kenny Williams position, to remind folks of what that would look like with the White Sox. So I don't see that coming. I think that you're going to see commitment to not only Chris, but what Chris is doing and what he has been doing for the last year.
I would desperately want that because Jerry has seen that it hasn't worked in the first year. Not only worked, it's leading to the worst season in baseball history. And it's very, very adult of a person to admit they were wrong, and I don't think he would admit that he's wrong and fire Chris Getz, which is what I would want. So since he's in the absence of that, admit that you were wrong to give the sole baseball decision-making job to Chris Getz because it led to the worst season in baseball. And yes, go out and find yourself a person that knows how to do this job in particularly without stepping on Chris Getz's toes, just there to be like, hey, man, you might want to do X, Y, and Z, or talk to this guy. That guy is, we kind of wild with trades. He and I talked about this trade one time and give him a little inside baseball to let him know about the things that he should as a general manager, because this is the first time he's done it. It is the first time that Josh Barfield has been an assistant general manager. Jin Wong was the assistant general manager in Kansas City, but Brian Bannister was the director of baseball. This is his first time doing this. And also Paul Giannis, the first time he's running a baseball organization down in the minors. So there's a lot of people doing jobs that they've never done before. You need a little bit more organization on what the White Sox going forward. And if you're not going to fire Chris Getz, to leave him at his own devices and say, oh, everything's right. Let's go. Let's just go into next year and see what that brings. I think will be foolhardy, and that will be a useless statement that, hey, we like everything that happened. This season sucks, but, Chris Getz, he's coming his ass back. Well, and the same thing is going to happen next year.
Well, let me ask you guys a question, because I think how much has the fact that they're going to break this record for the most losses in a season ever, how much does that really change or recolor kind of how okay it was to lose this year, right? I mean, we came into this season knowing they were rebuilding. And while you got Chris Getz saying something that they wouldn't teach in a PR class the other day, that he wouldn't have been surprised if they lost 105 or 110 games, there were a lot of folks who weren't going to be surprised if they lost triple-digit games this year or 100 again like they did the year prior. They were not supposed to be good this year. You say, there needs to be reaction to the fact that it's going to be the worst modern MLB season ever. Why, though, that compared to what the changes or reaction should have been had they just been regular bad?
I think the biggest issue is with Chris Getz and the language before the season that he thought they could be surprisingly competitive. And it's less about the 105 and 110 comment. It's more that this is the cards that we've been dealt at this point. That's the part that bugs me because Chris is the dealer. Chris is the person that put together this team, and they vastly outperform his expectations of how bad or where the bottom of this was. And that's what's most concerning is that he thought the cap of this was around 110. And they were never even using the rebuild or retool words. I wanted them to use, I can't even think of it. Revamp, right? But he used the the rebuild word with you guys on Monday. He finally used it when he was asked, like, how does this affect you? I have the thing pulled up. I'm a competitor just like the players on the field, and when we don't win games, it eats at you. It's hard. You come up short more than often than we would have liked, but you look at the development of these players and the opportunity they're getting right now. You have to find wins when you're in a rebuild like we are now. I feel like they're finally just admitting to themselves that they're in a rebuild and that they can't get out of this hole.
We knew that even last winter when they wouldn't say it. It was silly that they wouldn't say it, right?
Well, it was silly, but I'm questioning why they weren't saying it because it seemed so clear to us.
Well, again, that was the thing that they do teach you to do in PR 101 because every White Sox fan knows that rebuild meant the thing that the last guy did, and it did not work to the way that they assumed that it would.
I would say the reason why the actual losses, and Sean made a great point, matter more to me than, him being at the 110 loss mark is because when the Mets set that record 62 years ago, that was
62.
That was their first year.
Correct.
Ever. First year as the franchise. You expect that. This is 124th, exactly half of the White Sox being a Major League Baseball franchise. And they're breaking a record that's 62 years old. That's why I say, no one in between there, not the teams that have come after that. No of the expansion teams have broke it since. Not even the bad Tigers in 03. Those are bad teams. And as Sean said, he looked at that team and said, and admitted to you guys, if you would lose 105, 110, he would have been there. That's where we're at. But he doesn't know how to evaluate his own talent that he picked. That's what, to me, is very troubling. It's going to be 15 wins off of his prediction, maybe. 110 would have been, fine. But he's going to be 15 wins off of that, or losses off of that. That's amazing. They're even worse than his worst nightmare, and they're going to set a record that hasn't been broken in 62 years. That, to me, says change needs to come. And when the White Sox did lose their most games in the history of this franchise, and I think 107 losses in the 70s, change came. They fired that general manager.
But that was in an era when teams were trying to win every year.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen anymore.
It doesn't. But I think there has to be some type of repercussion for having the worst season ever. The Mets understood they were going to be bad, and it should have been bad. I one thought they're going to be. I think there's no one except for maybe Minigdar that predicted them to lose this many games.
I think that opinion ignores the context of where the team is, and I don't think it's unrealistic because the idea should be that you don't have to rebuild. The idea should be like it was in the 70s, and you're trying to win every single season, right? And so, from a fan standpoint, you should be angry that you're again in this rebuilding cycle when you really don't have to be. You could have just signed better players and done a better job, right? But once you commit to doing this type of a project a year ago, right, is the idea that the major league team performed poorly in what was supposed to be a rebuilding year in which the major league team was supposed to perform poorly, is that a reason to go away from the plan all of a sudden? Is that a reason to then crumple it up and start this all over again now? Again, I know that you have the opinion that it never should have started in the first place, and so you're obviously going on off of that opinion. I'm just saying, if you're Jerry Reinsdorf and you're looking at this today and you're saying, what changes can I make, or if any, to respond to the fact that they've lost all these games in this terrible of a fashion, I don't know if there's an easy answer for him that will then change things right away again. I just don't think that's possible.
I don't need them to change it right away, but it's not only this season, there's bleak future. There's, at least with the Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams thing, we knew we're going to go through 4 years of badness, and we accepted that. That was fine. this is endless. There's no bottom. When are they going to get good? They don't have good position players. Like, they're all going to be gone, and we already know the development of position players has been a bugaboo for the White Sox for a long time. And so when is this going to get better? And is Chris Getz the person to get it better when we're looking at some of the acquisitions he's made so far in the year he's been here? It's like, it's questionable, brother. You don't really have any inspiring type of moves to like, yes, I get it, Chris. I see your vision. There's none of that for me, at least.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, you bring up that they committed to this last year, and maybe you see the signal of them firing Rick and Kenny as that. But I go back to him saying, I don't like our team, and some of the offseason comments, and maybe it is just positive PR from Chris's standpoint. The thing that he really doesn't want to do is go out and be like, oh, my team's terrible. But he kind of did that, and I would have been fine if he stuck to that motive all throughout the offseason. Like, hey, I picked this up in a really bad spot. And while I really like the place the clubhouse is in, I don't know how many wins we can actually truly see on the schedule. If he thought there was going to be 110 losses this year, like, I would have appreciated that outlook from the general manager, and we didn't get that. And
again, that's not the kind of thing you say in spring training, but
yeah, but
you're not going to get people
realistic.
But here's the thing. You're talking about getting people into the stadium. You're going to sell a bunch of season tickets if you're saying, boy, you know what? I think we're going to win. I think we're going to lose about 105 games this year.
Yeah, but then you're just lying to people. Then you're just like, oh, we think we're going to be good. I mean, give us your money.
He said the hope is we can outperform some of those projections.
Yes.
And that's not what they did, obviously.
No. And them being perturbed about the 0% chance of playoffs. Like,
well,
but again, that's the players. They should. They don't think they're going to lose, right?
They didn't do a damn thing about it, though.
Our guy Chuck goes out and he says, like, oh, you'll be surprised to people on X about this team. And I think there was a little bit of the state media and a little bit of the Sox messaging leaking out. Even to me, at one point I said they'd win 75 games. That Chris Getz had something going on here. And especially with some of the talent like Moncada, Jimenez, Robert, and especially with the revelation of Crochet and even Fetty, like, you thought that they'd be a little bit more competitive, and it just never showed up at all. And we go back to the comment or the discussion we had yesterday about the clubhouse being improved. There was a comment that was left by E. Spidey, and he said they brought in a bunch of guys that were happy to be in the majors. That's why the locker room is so tight. And I think that's part of the thing is, like, the locker room is fixed, but it's just a bunch of terrible Major League Baseball players. So I would like to see Jerry go out and say, we're going to at least, spend at the major league level so this isn't as terrible as it was. Unless, instead of spending $1.5 million on Chris Flexen, what if we went to the $5.5 million category? What if we just increased the budget just by a little? I don't know if they do that for this bad team, but I would appreciate that. The only other thing for Jerry that I want to get to, and you guys can obviously bring up whatever else, Tony La Russa. I brought up the senior advisor thing mainly to see if any of you guys would bring it up. I would like more clarification on what Jerry Reinsdorf sees Tony La Russa's position with the White Sox as. If it's, that's my buddy and he had a health scare as he was the manager and I want to take care of him and he's going around to baseball because he's a baseball lifer, but we're not actually like listening to his input when it comes to day-to-day baseball stuff, maybe just more like broader senses of baseball thoughts, I'd be fine with that. But I would want clarification from Jerry on what Tony La Russa is doing here and if he sees him as a senior advisor to Chris Getz as Kenny was to Rick, or if it is more of a distant relationship between the two.
Well, Kenny wasn't a senior advisor. Kenny was the vice president of baseball operations. Okay, he was the boss, right?
Yes, whatever the title is. Is he the boss or is he a figurehead? Is he Grandpa Tony?
Well, he's not the boss. He's a senior advisor. Chris Getz is now the general manager of the team. If you're just talking about flowchart specifics, but we've heard various people describe Tony's role in the organization, Tony included, in various reporting that has been done and writing that's been done. A lot of it by Daryl over at the Sun-Times on this topic specifically, and it sounds like he's a resource for them, right? He's a guy who has been in the game for decades upon decades. He's won 3 World Series rings, and he's here to offer his thoughts, and the people he's offering them to can do with them what they will. I know there's a certain segment of White Sox fans out there, Sean appears to be among them, that are terrified of the boogeyman Tony La Russa getting his fingers on anything White Sox related, but he's just there talking to people when they want to talk to him, offering advice as an advisor would do, and they can do the job. Trust me, Chris Getz is the head of the baseball department over at the White Sox.
But
There's no doubt about that.
But I also remember where Rick Hahn was the general manager, and it seemed like Tony La Russa had the ear of Jerry Reinsdorf, and his word meant more than what Rick Hahn's word meant. So it's a good question you asked, Sean. Like, are you just some emeritus position, or you actually got the ear and you're like people's like Skip Schumacher? He played for Tony. I don't want Tony's input on that. I want all Chris gets. He is the baseball decision maker. And if Tony wants to give Chris some suggestions, cool. But I don't want it to be like, okay, Jerry likes me as Tony La Russa. I could tell him something, and if Chris Getz disagrees, Jerry's going to go on my side type of thing. And I don't know if that's the case. Probably not the case, but the fact that it's happened in the past where Jerry or Tony got his way over what Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams would want, it just precedent is out there, and I don't want that precedence to continue. I didn't want him on the team, but him on the team is a thing. Jerry's going to have him here as long as he wants to be here.
Jerry specific, anything else that we might have missed with the possibility of his looming thoughts on the 2024 Sox?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that much like was the case when we talked to him last summer, right? There's going to be a lot of stuff that is ancillary, that isn't around the central topic of the team and the state of the team and how they improve going forward. I think there's a ton of questions to ask regarding this whole stadium conversation, especially now that they're
schmoozing,
setting up a Little League field over there and trying to get people to invest in all of that. So, I mean, I think that sort of thing, I mean, that this was completely dormant, this conversation, for a very long time. It seemed almost like the mayor, if not the governor who has the actual power, the mayor was the one almost to kind of, put his arm around the Bears and kind of push the White Sox out of the conversation in general. But now they're, like I said, they're doing landscaping over there, and so all of a sudden there's something happening, and there's reason then to ask these questions to Jerry, among other things involving this team, right? So, yeah. Hell, they got a brand new TV network launching October 1st, and what's going to be the deal with that? So I think there's a whole ton of other stuff that would come out of such a conversation that would maybe be, headlines B through whatever letter that would also be very interesting and very important.
If he said that, hey, I'm going to have these investors foot the bill for this new stadium, I think White Sox fans would be excited. So they don't have to pay for the stadium, and that stadium view, beautiful.
I don't want them to... I think it's unnecessary construction and just leave the damn place where it is. I'm fine with that. But if he does get a privately funded building, I cannot complain. Oh. And if they get a skyline view, I also cannot complain. I guess that's the one thing, too. Like, I will come and ease off Jerry a little bit. I don't have fears that they're going to go to Nashville or Portland or anything else, especially when you guys were at the winter meetings. It did feel more of a thing, and we'll go to Dave Stewart, who I could bring up too, because he was running the Arizona Diamondbacks when they were terrible. Tony La Russa was with them, so I guess that's a little bit of an uneasy feeling there. It's just, is Tony a part of another terrible team? But I think that was more of just getting Major League Baseball in Nashville, less of the White Sox specifically in Major League Baseball. And also, I think with the commitment of schmoozing these private investors, building out a Little League field at the 78, I think that shows more of a commitment to Chicago, especially with that Cranes article where he said, it's more up to a new owner if they want to keep him into Chicago rather than me. I don't think he has the energy or want to move the team out of Chicago while he's alive.
That'll be great.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, we got one question. It's from our guy, Brandon. You could join Brandon in the Die Hard chat over at the CHGO Lounge. You can sign up to become a Die Hard today. allchgo.com/diehard. You can join the Discord. You get exclusive articles as well at allchgo.com. You get a shirt of your choice when you sign up. You get 20% off events and merch. The question from Brandon in the Discord is, since I haven't been able to watch as many games lately, I'm curious how you guys would grade Grady. How is he handling the bullpen, managing the lineups, and using pinch hitters? I'm going to go out there, and mainly because of the record and record alone, I will give him a D. I don't think that Grady was ready for this position. I think Grady has a really nice smile, and it's easy to put him in front of cameras, and I think he's gregarious and happy to be there. I think that this is somebody that should not be in this position, should not be graded too toughly, and I'm grading strictly off the record.
And you're grading him toughly.
I'm about to say.
Well, I'm grading him off the record. This is not grading him.
Still passing, I guess.
I don't think there's been much to actually gain or glean from Grady outside of the one time where he blew up against Hunter Wendelstedt.
Yeah, I would say, as I would go back to him just being a non-detrimental or doesn't make the team better being a manager. Like, I've not seen anything that he's done as a manager that I'm like, oh, what is he doing out there? Or a move that he's like, oh man, great, he's doing work. So C- for me, it's fine. I wouldn't want him as a returning White Sox manager. These players love him, apparently. T-shirts and all. Loving Grady Sizemore because he's a former player, but he's a non-factor as a manager, which you should have. But this is a bad team. So a non-factor on a bad team, I don't want that. I want a manager who can actually improve the play by the players by either motivation or coaching or whatever. I don't think Grady does that.
Yeah, if you hate the team-wide explanation of the record is terrible but the vibes are good, then you're not going to like the explanation about Grady Sizemore, which is hasn't won any games, but he sure seems to be doing good for that clubhouse. They love him. They respect the hell out of him. I'll say that much. Not that they didn't with Pedro, but they respect Grady for a different reason, and that is his relatively recent playing career. I just think he has good relationships with all these guys, which again, that's part of the job. That you deserve credit for that and being able to interact well with these guys. But at the end of the day, I think he's a manager kind of just because there has to be a manager, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think when it comes to all the pitching decisions, he's probably turning to Ethan Katz and saying, what do you think about this? I think when it comes to, matchups and stuff like that, he's looking at the book and he's talking with bench coaches. He's talking with hitting coaches, that kind of thing. So I think from what he's said anyway, he's really leaning on the whole staff and probably what you've seen since Pedro was fired is more of a manager by committee, so to speak, with Grady as the chair of said committee. But again, he's a guy who's brought a positive attitude, a positive outlook on his own job. He really likes being the manager of the White Sox, which is like you saw Pedro not dislike the opportunity or the gig, but like you saw him wearing all those losses a lot, right? Grady is happy to show up to the ballpark and get to manage every day, and the players absolutely adore the guy. So I think when it comes to grading him, grading Grady,
oh, there you go.
I can't believe that wasn't part of the question. Come on. It's really, you're grading on an entirely different rubric because he's not here to make winning moves or win ball games or anything like that. He's there to keep this train on the track until it reaches the station, no matter how slowly it might be getting there.
Glorified babysitter, Grady Sizemore. But I mean, even that too. Like, I mean, he's 5-25. It's just unfair to even grade him. You could give him just an NA if that's better. But it goes back to the whole situation of why the locker room is great. Like, even the manager is a guy that shouldn't be there, but he has some experience. He's a recognizable name, and people like him. So we'll give him the job because he's here. And it's just kind of the entire White Sox organization summed up in a way. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll be back on Sunday after the game between the
A's and the White Sox.
And the White Sox. So make sure you tune into that post-game show on Sunday. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at allchgo.com. His latest piece is about Jerry Reinsdorf. So if you want more Jerry Reinsdorf coverage, go check that out at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Ectorwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Hit that subscribe button. And thank you to our guy, Joey Spathis, for producing the show. We'll talk to you then.